What's up, guys? This is Alex, aka Fluka, here with my Season 4 draft recap video. And I'm really happy with how this draft turned out. I think it worked really well. Um, we got pretty much everything I really wanted. I only got sniped once, which was nice to, have. Like, I didn't have to, drastically change my plans because someone screwed me over, which was nice. So first off, we started off our draft with our franchise pick. We did get the MVP leader last season with Garchomp, so I decided ever you needed a reason to franchise something, that's a pretty good reason to keep it around. So we're going to keep MVP, our Garchomp, around. And I really like Garchomp because it does a lot of roles. It's a electric immunity, it's a dragon. It's a really good dragon, especially it's got a nice speed stat at base 102. It has so much good coverage. It can run so many good Z moves. It can be, I can Scarf it, I can Band it, I can make it a defensive variant if I want. It's a great Z user, so it can set rocks, it can phase things out, so it's a really good versatile mon, and I wanted to keep that up. Now, the problem with that is that it means that we start our draft off with only 360 free agent points, which would normally limit us. So I knew right away with my first pick of the draft that I could not afford to get another T1 right away because I did all the variations on what I could get, and almost none of them involve getting T1s. Well, I can get some T1s, but then I have to have a lot of lower tier picks. So my basic plan going into this draft was I was going to try and abuse T2 since we fattened it up this season. I figured there'd be a lot more there. Usually T2 is the most limited tier, but we really fattened it up, so I thought I could take advantage of that and abuse that. So my first two picks I knew were going to be tier 2s, because most of my possible combinations of picks involve an extra T2. So I wanted to start off by getting my fairy right away. I wanted a really good fairy, so I got Sylveon for my T2. Q-Charm is nice, but we're going to be running Pixelate. They did nerf Pixelate this gen, so it is a little weaker, but it still can hit like a truck. It's still, base 110 special attack with Pixelate. That gives it like base 102 power or something like that. Maybe more, 112. And I got really good special defense. It can be a cleric. I don't normally draft clerics. It's not normally a role that I find super necessary when I build, because I typically try and go more offensive and speed control, which I didn't. I guess I kind of do in this draft. I have, how many things do I have above base 100 on this team? Including Entei, which is base 100. I have 5 things that go above base 100. So I mean, but we have a nice mix of speed and bulk on this team, and I'm really happy about it. But yeah, so I can specs this thing. I can use it as a cleric. It doesn't have the best coverage, but it can still hit like a truck if I want, or it can just be a wall and take hits. And so I thought it would pair really well with Garchomp. It can really absorb ice hits because of that nice hardy bulk. And then next up, I wanted to get something that could start giving me mons that can pivot. I also really wanted to get something that could hazard remove, and with the new Gen 7 move tutor, I thought I'd try out Rotom Wash for the first time. So we got Maytag here, our Rotom Wash, which brings our free agent points down to 240. But you're gonna see right with our next pick that we're gonna fix that right away. But yeah, so Rotom Wash is a nice, if you look at those stats, it only has one weakness in electricity or Mold Breaker, Earthquake, but you know when your opponent's going to have Earthquake, Mold Breaker, so you don't stand against it. But it's got really good defenses, it's got a nice special attack stat, and it's got decent speed. The only thing that really holds it back is its low HP, but I can run Chesto Resto, I can run Pain Split. I know A-Drive had this on a team. I don't know if it was his championship team or he just went to the playoffs with it, but he brought it every week. He brought it more often than his T1, which was, I forget what it was. Tapu Koko. No, that can't be right. I don't know. But it's a really good mon. It runs a lot of, as again, really versatile. I can run it as either kind of wall, really has the same sort of stats, depends on the week. It can pass burns, pain split again. It now has defog. I can use it to just switch around. I can scarf it. It gets trick. So there's a lot of good things that I can do with this mon. And I'm really excited to use it. So now, I knew going into this draft, at this point in the draft, Mega Lopunny was on the board, and I really wanted to draft it. I really wanted it, but I didn't want to have to relegate myself to taking a lot of stuff from lower tiers. I wanted to take from T2 and build like a nice solid team, and just have my couple of lower tier mons as like filler for things that I'm lacking on. So I really wanted that power. So going into this draft, I really wanted to get Mega Pidgeot. Mega Pidgeot was my dream Mega. We got Air Razor here. I really wanted it because it gave me an extra 60 points, I think. Yeah, so that brings our total up to 300 now. And it doesn't have the best coverage. It just has Hurricane and Heat Wave, but it doesn't really need anything else. Hurricane is a base 120 move that will always hit with a 50% chance of Confusion. Confusion did get nerfed, but it's still a really good move. Heat Wave allows me to take on those Steel types. I don't have anything over Rock types, but I get U-turn, so I can just get right back out of there. It's got an insane speed stat at 120, and special attack's even better. It is weak to rocks, and you're going to see I do pick up some more rock weaknesses later in this draft, which kind of will limit me, but like I said, I literally just got hazard removal with Maytag there, so I wasn't that worried about it. Pidgeot also gets defog, so that does take a little pressure off of Rotom. I don't have to bring all the week, and because it's limited in its move slot, it's limited in its move pool, I will have chances to fit defog on. If I don't have anything better and nothing else on my team has defog, just throw it on Mega Pidgeot. Who cares? I can literally just run Heat Wave, I can run Hurricane, Heat Wave or U-turn depending on the week, Roost or U-turn depending on the week, and defog every week if I want. It's just guaranteed to be there. It's not the best defogger, but it does give me that extra option. Now, next up, I really wanted to get my Steel type at this point in the draft. I knew it had to be a T3 or lower because I didn't want to get all my free agent picks right at once. Especially since at this point in the draft, people kind of already locked themselves into what kind of tiers they were going to be able to draft. Like they've probably already got 2 T1s or 2 T2s. Most people anyway. And so I wanted to get something from low tiers. The whole lead up to the draft, I was really looking at Blade. I really wanted to get the Blade, but I was looking at the board. I only had one rocker in Garchomp. I did not want Garchomp to be my primary rocker. Blade does not get rocks. I also wanted something that I could run, just like Maytag, I can run it physical or special either week, so it's more versatile. Can't do that with the Blade. So it was right there, and I went for the nice, comfortable Colossus. Registeel, yo girl, is on the team again. A lot of people made fun of me for drafting Registeel again, but you know what? That's just because they're jealous, because Registeel is awesome. I love Registeel. You can use Counter, you can use Magnet Rise, Toxic, Seismic Toss for reliable damage. It gets Rocks, gets Thunder Wave, gets Iron Defense, gets Amnesia. It's just a really good mon. I can Curse Rest Talk, finally. I've always wanted to bring that set. I don't think I ever have, but yeah, we got Colossus. So I was really happy with this, and that completes my Fairy Dragon Steel core, and Garchomp, Sylveon, Registeel is a nice core. They can all be defensive. They can, well, 2 of them can be offensive. Registeel can have some surprising damage output with things like Counter. So I like that mix there. Next up, I really wanted a poison type. I wanted an offensive poison type, um, and I really wanted to get Nihilego at the start of this draft. But I realized that I could better abuse T2 if I didn't get an extra T1. So just to break it down, since I already have an extra T2, I could have gotten an extra T1 and 2 T4s, or I could have gotten 2 more T2s and a T4. So I went with that route ultimately. So I knew I needed to get a lower tier poison type, and I saw Drapion. I had Drapion in the PU Battleground. I didn't bring it that often, but I like what this thing can do. It's got usable attack, it's got good speed, it's a nice scarf option. It's also got decent defense, so I can use it as a wall. This also gives me toxic spikes on my team. And do I get regular spikes too? I think I just get toxic spikes. But I also have a lot of coverage. You can see here: Aqua Tail, Brick Break, Crunch, Earthquake, Fire Fang. And because I am bulky, I could use this thing as a surprise Zmon user. Last season, I did use a lot of I want like more creative uses of Z moves. Like I ran Z Haze, Wheezing to allow me to sweep against Azumarill, and I used Trick Room, Slowbro to get an accuracy boost and sweep Word. I use Fire Blast and Focus Blast and stuff like that. So I could do that with Drapion as well. I get Home Claws, Knockoff. It's always good to have knockoff users. I can also have now Poison Jab and stuff. I have the Battle Armor, which is good for defensive sets, and I also have Sniper, which is good for offensive sets. And I also can phase with Whirlwind. I don't think I get Spikes. I think I just get T-Spikes. But, I mean, hey, it's another form of hazards, so I will take it. Next up, at this point in the draft, I should mention that Snowy, or Sunny, one of our new coach, had been absent from the draft the whole time, so they had missed 4 picks, and so when she finally showed up, she got to make 6 picks at once, which worried me because, like I said, I still need to get 2 more T2s in order for my draft plan to work the way I wanted it to. At this point, my lowest thing was a T. Well, I now had my T4 with Drapion, which was also good. I still needed a T3, but T3 is really diverse, so I thought I could pick up anything really later that I wanted. Well, actually, it's worth noting that before Drapion, I was debating getting Heracross, and this is the only real snipe I had. I was debating between Heracross and Drapion, and I decided I wanted to go for Drapion because I really wanted I was prioritizing poison over fighting because a lot of powerful fairies were out already in the season, and then Danny sniped me, so that one hurt. But we get to that later. But so like I said, I really wanted to get another T2, and with someone coming in and getting to make, they didn't franchise anything, so they got to make all their picks. They got to take as many T1s and T2s. They ended up taking Manaphy Victini. So like I said, they could have just completely thrown my plan into chaos if they had taken more T2s. Luckily, they didn't take anything I want. I don't even remember what T2 they took. But I was panicking, and I was on the short list on the swing back up, so I knew I wanted to get a nice T2. Again, I wanted another rocker. I wanted something that I could really set up with. I don't have any real setup mons yet, but I guess I have Colossus and Sakura, but I wanted a nice versatile mon, and I decided to go with Necrozma. I personally like using bulky psychic types. Prism Armor is a great ability. I get a lot more utility now because of boot tutors, so I get a lot of stuff, but I get so many forms of setup. I can autonomize with a weakness policy. I have Sword Stance, I have Calm Mind, which I also have Stored Power, and then, where is it? I think the New Moon, Photon Geyser, yeah. Photon Geyser, base 100, it is a special move, but it uses my most powerful stat. So if I set up with if I'm using Sword Stance, I can set up with Sword Stance and still have a special move that will hit like a truck because it will use my boosted attack stat as the stat that it uses to calculate the damage. So I can run really cool mixed sets with this thing. It also gets Stealth Rock, which is another good thing, so that takes pressure off of Garchomp and Colossus. And yeah, I just really thought it would be fun to use Necrozma, especially with all the new utility. I get Trick Room also, which is fun. It did hurt to draft this over Reuniclus, but I had to do it I didn't have to, but I wanted to try it. But drafting Necrozma brings our point total down to 180. At this point, I was looking at T5 and realizing that everything in T5 that I actually liked, we've moved up. So T5 was really not looking appealing for me. There wasn't really anything down there I wanted, so I knew I needed to find something there fast and grab it quick. There was Zangoose down there, but at this point in the draft, I still didn't want to rule out grabbing Lanoon because I really liked using Lanoon in the PU Battleground. So I couldn't grab two similar normal types like that, especially since I already had Airraiser. I didn't want to have too many normals. And so an old favorite just kind of was the only thing I wanted, and I grabbed Egret. I grabbed Sneasel. Again, a lot of people made fun of me for this. I'm willing to trade this if someone can interest me with something from T5. There's just nothing else down there anymore that I want. I'm trying to think. Like, there was Electabuzz, but we already had Maytag. I would have taken Electivire, but Zero already had it. There was Weezing, but we had literally just grabbed Drapion. And nothing else down there really excited me. I guess I could have gone Regigigas, but again, I wanted to leave the board open for Lanoon at this point. So I grabbed Sneasel, which did a lot of things that I wanted. It bridged an important speed tier for me. Whereas before I had a really fast Mon in Mega Pidgeot, but I can't Scarf it. Especially with me, I didn't really mention this. I always like to have a bird. I always like to have Flying Stab on a team because Scarf Bird Spam is so good. Now, I can't Scarf Airraiser, which is a little bit of a drawback to it, but at base 121, it's crazy fast. Anyway, it outspeeds some Scarfers naturally. So that I have that. I also have Tailwind on it. I can use that to boost the speed if I want, so I'm not super worried about it. But before this point, I think Garchomp was the fastest thing on my team at base 102, so I needed something that broke the 110 barrier. And so Sneasel does that. It's the fastest not fully evolved Pokemon at base 115. Got nice usable attack stat. Because of its speed, I can choose to Bandit, or I could Scarf it if there's something I'm really worried about and just use it to whittle things away. Sneasel's a good Pokemon. I was looking at Weavile finally this season, but again, I couldn't get multiple T1s because I decided to franchise. If I hadn't franchised, I don't even have the numbers here. Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, if I hadn't franchised, I could have grabbed 2 T1s, or an extra T1 and 2 T2s. Like, I could have done a lot of fun stuff, which is just a no for next time. I don't think I'm going to franchise next season, if we still allow it. But, so I grabbed Egret here, which is really great. Another priority user. Actually, do I even have priority? I have Quick Attack on Airraiser, but not ideal. But so this is a good priority user for my team. I get Fake Out, I get Ice Shard, I get Icicle Crash, it's another knockoff user, which, it is a double up on the Dark type, but doubling up on what knockoff user I want to bring is not a terrible thing to have, especially since they have completely different weaknesses. Drapion not being weak to fighting, it's only weak to ground. Egret has a lot more weaknesses. And it's not something I'm going to bring every week. I'm probably going to go for like the 7th Mon award for this thing this season. I'm going to try and use it really creatively, especially now that we have Z moves. I don't think I've used this in a league since Z moves. I could be wrong about that. I'm not sure when the last time I had it was. But yeah, I'm excited to use it. And then at this point, like I said, I'd been sniped on Heracross, so I really, 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 really wanted to have a fighting type. I needed a fighting type. I wanted another thing above 100 with Sneasel and Garchomp and Pidgeot. I would have liked something a little faster, but at this point I really needed to grab a T3, and there wasn't a lot of T3s left that I was interested in, especially if we want to limit it to fighting types. So I went up and I grabbed something I've always kind of been interested in. I grabbed my Mineshaw. Got the regenerative ability and reckless, so it's got some good moves. I think this thing gets bounced, doesn't it? Does it get bounced? It does get bounced, so I can run Z bounce, something I've learned to love in my Egglock. Get Drain Punch, I get Fake Out, so I have another priority user, which is nice. Acrobatics is also really good. Oh, how does Acrobatics work with the Z move? I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into that because that's interesting. But yeah, it just gave me a nice, fast fighting type. I can run Regenerator with Life Orb, and just frequently hit U-turn and swap out, which I kind of like. It's got a nice, good attack stat. It's basically a faster version of Sock, except it doesn't have. Does it have elemental punches? No, it doesn't. So it's not as good as Sock. But I wasn't gonna get Sock with Registeel and Sneasel and have everyone meme on me. I wasn't gonna do it. All I need is the fighting stab, and then I can just U-turn out. So I'm excited to use this thing. Then at this point, like I said, I had locked myself in. I can get a T2 and a T4, and I was looking at my team, and I wanted another form of hazard removal. I realized that very easily. I only had Rotom, which is a really good hazard remover because it's immune to spikes, and Mega Pidgeot, which I can always just slap that on there, but it's not a dedicated defogger. So I wanted something that I can use for hazard removal, but I didn't want to give up on the Lanoon Dream. So I grabbed something that did something similar, and we have Queensland the Kamala. And when I say somewhat similar, I'm talking about the Sleep Talk Last Resort Choice Band set. Something really interesting that I've thought about trying. I could also just scarf it, depending on the week, and use that set. But I think it works better as a banded set, especially since I can give myself some bulk. But it also gets Rapid Spin. It gets Wood Hammer. It also gives me a Sponge for statuses because it can't be status really, which is nice. Could I also do Choice Band Facade? Would Facade double in power? Oh, did I just discover something? It probably doesn't work. I feel like I'm not that smart. I'm not the first person to discover that. So let me know in the comments below if that's true. Oh, it also gets Iron Head. It's another knockoff user. Play Rough, Rapid Spin, Shadow Claw, Rock Slide. So it's a good little koala. And then yeah, so this allowed me to have another form of hazard removal, which is great because the last thing I wanted also was weak to rocks, and that was Entei. We got Mufasa coming back. I haven't used Entei in a few seasons now, but it's great. It gives me another priority user with Extreme Speed, which is probably the best priority move in the game because it goes beyond Sucker Punch, which is great. Also gives me access to Sacred Fire, probably one of the best spammable moves in the game. I can just chuck that out. I have to run Adamant on it to do that, but if I don't want to do that, I can run Flare Blitz. Not as good as Sacred Fire, but it also has a really usable special attack stat, so I can run like heat sets like Weakness Policy Sunny Day. I could also run Z Sunny Day, which would be kind of cool. I don't want to give away too many ideas that I have for Entei, but I'm really excited to have this out. And that is the entirety of our draft. Looking at it all at once, I have I have 3 rock weaknesses, but they probably won't all come at the same time. And I do have now 3 forms of hazard removal. Actually, does Mulan get rapid spin? Why do I think that? That's not a thing, right? Yeah, of course it's not. Of course it's not. I would know that. Anyway, I'm really interested in a lot of the things I have. I'm really interested to try out Necrozma. This is like the most experimental pick I made, I think. Everything else here is something that I at least have some familiarity with, like out of league. Like I have a lot of familiarity with Sylveon out of league. When I first started playing competitive, I used it a lot. Maytag is something I'm not super comfortable with, but it's Rotom. Like, it's going to be good. I just have to make it good. Air Razor is something similar to stuff I've used before. I know how to use Burbs. Drapion I've used before. Mulan is just a fast fighting type. I'm used to that, but Necrozma, we'll see. I'm interested in Necrozma. I think I have a really well-rounded team, especially since I have so many T2s. I have 4 T2s on this team. And I think it's going to turn out well, so I'm just going to stop rambling. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of my draft, and if there's any names that you would like to suggest for any of these other guys, because there's a couple of them I'm not completely sold on. But that's it for me, guys, and I'll see you later. Bye!